The diplomatic significance of the meeting between Donald Trump and Imran Khan on the Kashmir issue lies in the delicate balance of global politics, regional rivalries, and the pursuit of peace in South Asia. The Kashmir conflict has been a central point of tension between India and Pakistan since 1947, leading to wars, cross-border clashes, and countless diplomatic confrontations. When Trump, as the President of the United States, met with Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan to discuss this complex matter, it signaled more than just another round of talks. It reflected the potential re-engagement of a superpower in a regional conflict that has far-reaching global consequences. The meeting represented an opportunity for both nations to redefine their diplomatic relations, not only with each other but also with neighboring powers like India, China, and Afghanistan, each holding a stake in the outcome of any discussion surrounding Kashmir. Trump's interest in mediating the Kashmir dispute marked a notable shift in U.S. foreign policy, as Washington had largely maintained a cautious distance from the issue in previous decades. His willingness to engage, whether perceived as genuine diplomacy or political theater, carried symbolic weight. It was the first time in years that an American president publicly acknowledged the possibility of playing a mediating role between two nuclear-armed neighbors. Imran Khan, on the other hand, viewed the meeting as an opportunity to internationalize the Kashmir issue once again. For decades, Pakistan had sought to draw global attention to what it described as human rights violations and political oppression in Indian-administered Kashmir. By meeting with Trump, Khan aimed to revive global dialogue on a conflict that had often been pushed to the background by other global crises. The setting of the meeting added to its diplomatic weight. The discussions took place at a time when India had taken significant steps in changing the political status of Jammu and Kashmir, a move that Pakistan saw as a direct violation of international agreements and UN resolutions. This geopolitical shift provided an urgent context to Trump and Khan's conversation. The world was closely observing how the United States would position itself, whether it would stand by its traditional ally India or extend diplomatic space to Pakistan's concerns. For Pakistan, the meeting offered hope that the United States might adopt a more balanced stance. For Trump, the meeting was also an opportunity to showcase himself as a global dealmaker capable of resolving one of the most protracted territorial conflicts in modern history. Beyond symbolism, the meeting reflected deeper strategic calculations. The United States had been seeking Pakistan's cooperation in the ongoing peace process in Afghanistan. Washington knew that Pakistan's influence over the Taliban made it an indispensable player in any regional settlement. Imran Khan skillfully leveraged this reality, presenting Pakistan as not only a stakeholder in Kashmir but also as a responsible regional partner willing to help stabilize Afghanistan and counter terrorism. In return, he sought acknowledgement of Pakistan's sacrifices in the fight against extremism and a reconsideration of its image as a nation associated with instability. The Kashmir discussion thus became intertwined with broader issues of security, mutual trust, and diplomatic recognition. The diplomatic significance also extended to the messages sent to India. While the U.S. refrained from taking sides, Trump's suggestion that he could mediate in Kashmir did not sit well with New Delhi, which has always maintained that the dispute is a bilateral issue to be resolved between India and Pakistan without third-party intervention. The Indian government swiftly rejected any notion of mediation, emphasizing its sovereignty over Jammu and Kashmir. This reaction underscored the sensitivity of the issue and highlighted how even the slightest shift in language by a global leader could alter regional dynamics. For Trump, the controversy perhaps reinforced his image as a bold and unpredictable statesman, unafraid of stepping into politically charged territories. For Imran Khan, the meeting elevated Pakistan's diplomatic posture at a time when the nation faced economic difficulties, strained international relations, and skepticism from Western countries. His ability to bring the Kashmir issue to the White House and secure even a hint of American engagement was perceived domestically as a political victory. It allowed him to project himself as a strong leader capable of defending Pakistan's stance on international platforms. The meeting also offered Pakistan a chance to rebuild some of the trust it had lost with Washington during earlier years of strained relations, especially following U.S. accusations that Islamabad had not done enough to counter terrorism. Through this engagement, Pakistan sought to reset its narrative, shifting from being seen as part of the problem to being part of the solution. At the same time, the meeting reflected the complexities of international diplomacy where interests often overshadow ideals. The United States, while engaging with Pakistan, was also strengthening its strategic ties with India, particularly in the context of countering China's growing influence in the region. This dual approach illustrated the delicate balancing act that Washington had to maintain. Trump's rhetoric about mediation, while welcomed in Islamabad, was treated with caution within his own administration, where officials recognized the risks of alienating India. The diplomatic implications of this meeting were not confined to the immediate moment. It contributed to a broader dialogue about the role of major powers in regional conflicts. It demonstrated how global leadership can influence the tone and trajectory of sensitive disputes, even without concrete policy changes. For Pakistan, the engagement served as validation that its concerns were not entirely dismissed by the world's leading power. For Trump, it offered a platform to project himself as a negotiator capable of tackling one of the most enduring flashpoints in international politics. For the international community, it reignited the debate on whether external mediation could ever bring meaningful progress in a conflict rooted in deep historical, religious, and territorial complexities. The meeting also underscored how diplomacy is often as much about perception as it is about outcomes. Even though no concrete resolutions emerged, the optics of two leaders discussing such weighty issues carried their own power. It reminded the world that conversations, however symbolic, remain a crucial part of the diplomatic process. It showed that dialogue between nations, no matter how strained, still holds the potential to open doors that conflict and silence cannot. The Trump-Imran Khan meeting thus stood as an example of how diplomacy continues to operate within layers of political calculation, personal ambition, and the hope, however faint, that even the most entrenched conflicts might someday find a path toward understanding and peace. The joint efforts and contrasting approaches of Donald Trump and Imran Khan toward combating terrorism reveal the intricate web of global alliances, political ideologies, and national interests that shape the fight against extremism. When these two leaders met, terrorism was not merely a regional concern but a global one, affecting economies, societies, and international relations at every level. The meeting provided a unique platform for both nations to articulate their perspectives on how terrorism should be addressed, what strategies were effective, and how international cooperation could be strengthened. Yet beneath the diplomatic gestures lay differing philosophies, contrasting motivations, and a historical backdrop that defined how each nation viewed the roots and remedies of terrorism. The United States, under Trump, emphasized strength, pressure, and strategic dominance, while Imran Khan advocated for understanding, socio-political reform, and regional cooperation as long-term solutions to extremism. Donald Trump's approach to terrorism was shaped by his America First doctrine, which prioritized national security above all else and viewed terrorism through a lens of immediate threat management. His administration's strategy centered on eliminating terrorist networks through military might, targeted operations, and cutting financial lifelines. Imran Khan, on the other hand, brought to the table a more nuanced understanding of terrorism, rooted in Pakistan's direct experience as both a victim and participant in the global war on terror. Khan repeatedly emphasized that terrorism could not be eradicated solely through force but required addressing the socio-economic and ideological conditions that fuel extremism. He pointed to the devastating impact of prolonged military conflicts on civilian populations and the radicalization that often follows such turmoil. Pakistan had lost tens of thousands of lives and suffered immense economic setbacks due to terrorism, and Khan sought global recognition of those sacrifices. He advocated for a shift from confrontation to rehabilitation, calling for education, economic opportunity, and social reform as central elements in the fight against extremist ideologies. The Trump-Khan dialogue thus represented a clash and convergence of two different schools of thought, one grounded in military dominance and global policing, the other in socio-political transformation and regional stability. Trump's expectations from Pakistan were clear. He wanted Islamabad to take stronger action against groups like the Haqqani network and the remnants of al-Qaeda and the Taliban. He demanded tangible proof of Pakistan's commitment, threatening to cut aid if progress was not visible. This pressure reflected the long-standing frustration in Washington that Pakistan had not done enough to eliminate cross-border terrorism. For Trump, results were measurable through arrests, strikes, and the dismantling of militant safe havens. Imran Khan countered this perception by asserting that Pakistan had already paid a heavy price for its involvement in the US-led war on terror. He argued that Pakistan's internal security had deteriorated because of its alignment with Western counterterrorism objectives, which, in his view, alienated segments of its population and contributed to domestic instability. Khan sought to reposition Pakistan as a partner in peace rather than a proxy in war. He emphasized that Pakistan's future lay in fostering stability across its borders, particularly through the peace process in Afghanistan, rather than continuing endless military confrontations. He also highlighted that terrorism could not be viewed in isolation from geopolitical conflicts, poverty, and injustice, which collectively create an environment where extremist ideologies can flourish. Despite their differences, both leaders shared certain practical objectives. They agreed that terrorism remained one of the most serious threats to global security and that its transnational nature required cooperation between states. They recognized that extremist networks often operate beyond national boundaries, making intelligence sharing and joint operations indispensable. Trump appreciated Pakistan's strategic importance in the region, especially given its proximity to Afghanistan and its influence over key militant groups. This reality compelled Washington to maintain dialogue despite mutual mistrust. Imran Khan, recognizing the leverage Pakistan held, used the meeting to rebuild diplomatic bridges and to push for a more balanced narrative, one that acknowledged Pakistan's sacrifices while calling for shared responsibility in combating extremism. The discussions also had a broader geopolitical dimension. The United States was in the process of negotiating its exit from Afghanistan, and Pakistan's cooperation was critical to ensuring a stable transition. Trump viewed Pakistan as both part of the problem and a potential part of the solution. Imran Khan understood that Pakistan's role in facilitating peace in Afghanistan could improve its image globally and open the door for economic and security partnerships. The shared interest in stabilizing Afghanistan thus served as a practical ground for collaboration against terrorism. Both leaders publicly emphasized the need for dialogue over conflict, but behind the scenes, their definitions of success differed. Trump wanted a quick, decisive outcome that demonstrated American power. Khan wanted sustainable peace rooted in political consensus. The meeting also highlighted how terrorism had evolved beyond conventional warfare into an ideological and cyber domain. Trump's administration focused heavily on the use of advanced technology, drone strikes, and intelligence networks to target terrorist leaders. Imran Khan, conversely, stressed the importance of countering extremist ideologies through education and public discourse. He warned against conflating Islam with terrorism, arguing that doing so alienated Muslim populations and strengthened radical narratives. His message was that terrorism must be fought not only on the battlefield but also in the minds of people who feel marginalized and voiceless. At its core, the Trump-Khan exchange on terrorism illustrated how the same goal, global peace and security, can be approached through very different lenses. For Trump, counterterrorism was a question of deterrence and dominance. For Khan, it was a matter of justice and balance. Their conversation revealed the ongoing struggle within global diplomacy to reconcile these perspectives. The tension between hard power and soft power, between immediate action and long-term reform, defines much of the modern fight against terrorism. While the meeting did not resolve these contradictions, but it did open a pathway for deeper understanding. It reminded the world that terrorism, as a phenomenon, is not confined to one ideology or one geography. It is a complex result of political, economic, and cultural fractures. The dialogue between Trump and Khan showed that combating it requires not only weapons and intelligence but also empathy, dialogue, and an honest reassessment of the policies that may have inadvertently fueled it. Through their exchange, both leaders underscored that terrorism remains one of humanity's greatest shared challenges, one that demands cooperation even among those who see the world through very different eyes. The global and regional implications of the meeting between Donald Trump and Imran Khan to discuss the Kashmir issue and terrorism stretch far beyond bilateral relations, influencing geopolitical alignments, regional stability, and the future of diplomacy in South Asia. Whenever two leaders of such stature engage on issues that have historical, religious, and territorial significance, the ripple effects are felt across continents. The dialogue between Trump and Khan was not merely about resolving a regional dispute, it represented a moment when global power structures, alliances, and strategies intersected over one of the most sensitive flashpoints in the world. The meeting symbolized how interconnected global politics has become, where discussions in Washington or Islamabad can alter the balance of power in New Delhi, Beijing, Moscow, and even the United Nations. At the regional level, the implications of their discussion were particularly intense. The Kashmir issue has always been at the core of tensions between India and Pakistan, two nuclear-armed neighbors whose animosity has shaped the security landscape of South Asia for decades. When Trump expressed willingness to mediate, it sent shockwaves through the region, especially in India, where such intervention was seen as a challenge to its sovereignty. India's firm rejection of third-party mediation highlighted its long-standing position that Kashmir is a bilateral issue and that foreign involvement only complicates the situation. On the other hand, Pakistan welcomed Trump's remarks as a diplomatic victory, seeing them as validation that the international community recognized Kashmir as a disputed territory requiring dialogue. This sharp contrast in reaction reflected the deep-rooted divide that continues to define South Asian politics and underscored how even a single diplomatic statement from a global power could ignite strong responses. The meeting also had significant implications for the United States' own foreign policy. For years, Washington had tried to maintain a delicate balance between its strategic partnership with India and its security cooperation with Pakistan. India, as a rapidly growing economy and a counterweight to China, had become a vital ally for the U.S., particularly in trade, defense, and the Indo-Pacific strategy. Pakistan, on the other hand, had been both an ally and a challenge, critical to America's efforts in Afghanistan but often criticized for its alleged links to militant groups. Trump's willingness to engage Pakistan on Kashmir suggested a temporary recalibration in U.S. diplomacy, where the immediate priority was regional stability and the successful withdrawal from Afghanistan rather than maintaining rigid alignments. It reflected how superpowers often adjust their relationships based on evolving strategic needs rather than ideological consistency. Imran Khan's engagement with Trump also carried significant symbolic and strategic meaning for Pakistan. For decades, Pakistan had sought to re-establish itself as a key player in international diplomacy after periods of isolation and strained relations with Western nations. The meeting with Trump offered Khan a chance to reset Pakistan's global image and portray his leadership as confident, pragmatic, and capable of handling complex international issues. By bringing up Kashmir and terrorism in discussions with the U.S. president, Khan signaled that Pakistan was not afraid to address difficult topics on major platforms. Domestically, this enhanced his political standing, reinforcing the perception that he could stand up to global powers while defending Pakistan's national interests. Internationally, it positioned Pakistan as a country willing to engage in dialogue rather than confrontation, an important shift after years of being portrayed primarily through the lens of conflict and instability. The meeting also influenced global perceptions of how major powers handle regional conflicts in the modern era. Traditionally, the United States has avoided direct involvement in the Kashmir issue, focusing instead on broader strategic concerns. Trump's openness to discuss mediation, however, showed how leadership personalities can sometimes alter diplomatic norms. His unconventional approach to foreign policy, often marked by unpredictability, brought a new kind of attention to the issue. For some observers, this was a welcome change, as it revived international awareness of Kashmir's humanitarian and political dimensions. For others, it was seen as risky diplomacy that could destabilize existing power balances. Regardless of interpretation, the world was reminded that global leadership still plays a vital role in either easing or escalating regional tensions. The global implications of this meeting also intertwined with the shifting power dynamics in Asia. China, a close ally of Pakistan and a rival of India, watched the Trump-Khan meeting with strategic interest. Any sign of U.S. willingness to engage in South Asian disputes had the potential to influence Beijing's regional calculations. China's massive investment in Pakistan through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, already tied its interests closely to Pakistan's stability. If the United States appeared to move closer to Islamabad, it could either lead to new areas of competition or opportunities for parallel diplomacy. Meanwhile, Russia, which had strengthened ties with India in recent years, remained cautious but aware that any U.S. mediation could alter the traditional regional balance where Moscow and Beijing had strong influence. Thus, a single meeting in Washington reverberated through the halls of power from Moscow to Beijing, shaping how major powers approached South Asian politics. Another crucial implication of the meeting was its potential impact on peace and stability within South Asia itself. The region has long been plagued by mutual suspicion, arms buildup, and cross-border violence. Dialogue between leaders like Trump and Khan, even without immediate results, contributes to lowering the temperature by emphasizing diplomacy over aggression. It signals to both domestic and international audiences that engagement remains possible. For Pakistan, this meant reaffirming its commitment to peace and demonstrating its willingness to work with global powers to resolve disputes. For India, despite its rejection of mediation, the meeting underscored the importance of maintaining stability to avoid internationalization of its internal matters. Thus, while the meeting may not have produced a concrete roadmap for peace, it nonetheless influenced how regional actors framed their policies and communications in the months that followed. From a global perspective, the Trump-Khan dialogue reflected the interconnected nature of modern conflicts where regional disputes have international implications. The Kashmir issue is not merely about territorial control, it's about human rights, identity, governance, and international law, all of which are themes that resonate globally. Terrorism, too, is a borderless threat that links South Asia's challenges with global security concerns. The meeting reminded the world that lasting peace cannot be achieved in isolation, it requires cooperation, understanding, and shared responsibility among nations. It also underscored the importance of dialogue between diverse political ideologies, Trump's assertive nationalism and Khan's reformist vision, showing that diplomacy often bridges contrasting worldviews to pursue common goals.